Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Hey, Badass Crew. In case you saw the title for today's episode and you didn't listen to last week's episode, today's episode is a part 2 with the same guest, and the information does really build on what we discussed last week. So I highly recommend, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back and listen to that episode and then listen to this episode so that you can hear more about what Patrick has to say about influence and persuasion, and really to help you get better at your sales and marketing conversations with the right people for your business. So go back and listen to part 1, and then we'll see you back here for part 2. And let me tell you, this stuff is so juicy. I've already implemented a lot of it in my life, my conversations, and my business, and it has helped so much. So these are amazing conversations. Highly recommend. Listen to part 1, and now here comes part 2.
Okay, so there are 7 universal principles of persuasion. And just in case you're wondering who Dr. Cialdini is, Dr. Cialdini became a university professor in psychology in the late 70s, and he was fascinated by the request process. How can it be that I can ask for something one way and I get a small amount of yeses, and I can ask for basically the exact same thing, but in a different way, and I get a lot more yeses? And so he did something that was unheard of at the time for a scientist to do. He took 3 years off, and with disguised identity and disguised intent, he enrolled in as many new employee training courses as he could get access to. He sold cars from a lot. He sold portrait photography over the phone. He worked with army recruiters, right? I mean, you can't get an 18-year-old to clean up their room, right? How do you get them to sign 4 years of their life away? Right? He spoke to detectives about con artists and cult recruiters. What do they use to draw people into their organization or to relinquish their life savings to a person that never seen before? Not that we should do that, but if we understand what the psychological triggers are that are underpinning those reactions, then we must be able to use that in ethical ways. And so he did that for 3 years, and he sort of collected, because every industry works out little things that work really well for them. And so he collected all those, and he basically boiled them down to what are the psychological triggers that are underpinning all these strategies and that you can use no matter what the industry is. And that went into that book that you mentioned, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. Sold 7 million copies in 48 different languages. And as you said, many top CEOs consider it the best business book of all time. This year, again, Forbes had it at the #1 position of timeless reads for business owners. All right, so 7 principles. We call them universal principles because they work in all cultures, all languages, and all countries. And so this is exceedingly valuable, right? Because our cultures are intermixed, right? But it's also much easier to do business with people in other countries. And so this is something that works everywhere.
Good to know.
Okay, so there's 7 principles. Let's go through them. All these words you've heard before, right? Yeah. And so we run the risk of you going, oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I see that and I hear that a lot. I've heard that before. But then when I look at somebody's website, there's just no evidence that they're using any of it, right? The fact that you know it doesn't mean you actually know it. And the fact that you, even if you really know it, doesn't mean you actually use it. And if you do use it, it doesn't mean you're using it in the most effective way. So any of these steps, you're losing successes that were yours to have, that were sitting on the table.
Yeah. Before
All right.
you continue, I want to hop in because I've held multiple virtual summits over the years. And one gal did an amazing job in her presentation by starting out by saying what the four most dangerous words in the English language, if you want to grow and get better, is I already know that. If you say those
Yeah.
four words, you're not going to keep growing. So instead, be listening to what, and I'm speaking directly to the badass crew here. If you really want to take this in the way Patrick is talking about it, think about, okay, what more can I learn about this? What is it that I'm missing from my understanding of any one of these 7 concepts? Okay. So, all right, let's go through them.
Okay. And of course, I can only cover this much,
Right.
right, in a
Right.
podcast
Mhm.
episode, right? So there's a lot more to this. All right, let's get into it. So, principle of reciprocity. Let's start with that. So, yeah, as BNI members, right? BNI has that philosophy of givers gain,
Mhm.
right? I help you, I help you find business. Well, then you'll help me find business, or other people help find you business. And so the rule of reciprocity says that we want to give back the same type of behavior that was first given to us, right? If you invite me to your birthday party, well, then I should invite you to my birthday party. If I do you a favor, then you owe me a favor, right? And in the context of compliance, people more readily say yes to people that they feel they owe something to. Now, in businesses, the concept is understood, right? Most people in business take this as in, okay, we got to give people stuff, right? And so we start giving things to people. But often people make an investment in what they think will activate reciprocity, and it completely misses the mark, misses the boat.
Mm.
Let me give you an example. A lot of people on their website have a lead generator. They have an ebook that people can download, right? Oh, we have a wonderful ebook. Just put your name in, your email address. We'll send you the download link. Our gift to you. Nice try. That's not going to activate reciprocity, because a gift is something that's given without a requirement needing to be met. In case of the ebook, it was give your name and email address first, then I will give you the download link. It wasn't a gift, it was a reward.
Mhm.
And so people feel like they paid for that ebook with their email address, which will probably end up on a newsletter, right? So I'm not saying that's a bad lead generator, but if you think it activates reciprocity, you're making a crucial mistake. What instead could you do, right?
Mhm.
Or you could do both. You could have the downloadable ebook, but let's say in your field of expertise, and it really doesn't matter what industry it is, let's pick makeup. So you could have a one-page checklist, right? If you're trying to heal your skin so that, you don't have any, allergic reactions to makeup now or in the future, right? So you're more resilient, and that you have that, the radiant beauty that comes from yourself that your makeup only complements to. If that's what you want, then these are the 15 things that you need to know about skin so, you can enjoy life more, right? Now, of course, I'm making this
Right.
completely up, right? I know
Yeah.
nothing about makeup, right? And so now I've got this checklist. I can put that on my website, and I can go, hey, we've got this wonderful checklist with lots of valuable information for you to use, regardless if you use our services or not. No need for name or email address. Just right click and download. Right?
Okay.
Now it's a gift. And yes, you don't catch people's email address, but now you've built a little bit of reciprocity. And now next time when you come with a request, as in, hey, we've got a webinar coming on, join us, you're going to be empowered by that reciprocity that's sitting in the situation between you and that person. It's interesting. I always love this. When you go to the supermarket and you get a piece of cheese or
Oh yeah. The little sample. Mhm.
yeah, a piece of yogurt or a sausage or something, most people think that does not change their behavior. And the research is absolutely clear. You give things away, things come back to you. And what I think is hilarious, that it doesn't even matter if you don't like the cheese. You buy more of something else because it's not about the cheese. It's about that you were kind to me. You gave me something. Now I need to be kind to you. All right. Reciprocity. You take notes. If we have time, we can circle back to something later, but I'll move on.
Sounds good.
All right. Principle of liking. Let's do that one next. So principle of liking says that we like people that are like us. We like people that like us. And we like people that like us and say so. Right? That's a whole mouthful of stuff. Right? So we like people that are like us means similarities.
Okay.
Right? Before we get into business, we want to talk a little bit personal stuff, try and find out things about the other person. And it's not so much about how much you uncover, it is about the similarities that you uncover. Might as well. In B&I, people do short presentations about their businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see this all the time. First of all, they make a terrible mistake when it comes to authority, but we'll get to that. But then they share pictures of themselves and the things that they're into. And that's good, right? It gives us an insight of who you are as a person, which certainly in B&I, where we know each other a little bit more, that's perfectly fine. But people might show the most exclusive things that they're into, right? As in the most exciting things. For example, with me, I could share with people that I do scuba diving, I ride a motorcycle, and I'm a pilot, right? Now, that's interesting to know about me, but the chances that I have a similarity with my audience are probably less, right? There's not an awful great chance that there's people in the audience that are pilots or people that ride motorcycles, a couple of percent, right? Maybe a few more that scuba dive, right? So it's good of me to share those personal insights, but if there are things that are so unique that I'm not hitting any similarities, I'm not building the relationship through the principle of liking. I need to also include things that are more common, right? I love Asian food. I love walking on the beach. I like camping. I like being in nature, right? And a lot more people will go, yeah, I like being in nature. Oh, I like walking on the beach. I love Asian food. So I'm now hitting more similarities. And so my audience goes, he's like me, right? And so we like each other more. That's similarities. Next time you go into a meeting with someone, most people have a social media feed where they're happily announced to the world everything that they're into. So you can go and have a look, or get your assistants to go and have a look. What is this person into? What are the activities that they like? What do they value? Right? And so you can then bring that up in conversation. Of course, not like, I did some research on you. You're into golf. So am I. Right now, it feels like I'm stalking you.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
But instead, you might go, did you do anything fun on the weekend? 2 weeks ago, my wife and I went golfing at the new golf course over there. It was great. And then they go, I do golfing too, right? Which you sort of already knew, right? But now you brought it up into the conversation. So you now get that familiarity with each other. So to do some research.
Yeah.
All right, I'll move on. There's a lot more to liking, but otherwise I can literally talk about this for hours. All right, next principle is the principle of unity. Unity is actually the last principle that Dr. Cialdini, after a lot of additional research, added to the mix. If you look up influence or persuasion online, probably the first 20, 30, 40 website pages you bump into are actually making references of Dr. Cialdini or videos and so on. And so in a lot of those, you'll hear about the 6 principles. And so in 2015, we got unity as well. So for those who've heard about Dr. Cialdini's work before, this might be extra exciting. So unity, where liking is more about similarities, unity is about feeling part of the same community, right? If you're sitting in an international airport and you're talking to someone and they're from the same town as you, right? All of a sudden, big smile. Oh, did you used to go there and there, right? You got this familiarity with each other. You could have that with the next board members you're going to be presenting to, but not if you don't do any homework, right? So again, you got to figure out what you might have in common with people, what community that you feel part of. That's what unity is about. And unity is also about co-creation, doing things together, which is absolutely fascinating. If we work together on a decision, on a project, we take ownership of it, but we also feel more unity with those who we co-created with. And that increases loyalty, trust, forgiveness, and support with that person, which are, of course, all welcome things. So that's unity. Then let's go to social proof. So this is probably the term everybody has heard before, social proof. And if you know that term, Dr. Cialdini came up with it. You know that because of Dr. Cialdini. Yeah, before that, it was called consensus, which was a little bit harder to understand. Social proof means a lot more. So social proof, the rule is that we follow the actions of others, especially when they are numerous and when the others are similar to us. And when we are uncertain, right? So basically that means we follow the crowd. And they've done testing with brain research for people to not do as the majority of other people do is actually lights up the pain centers in the brain for some people. It's painful to people. That's why, they do tests with customs officers, where you have to go through, show your passport, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
One cubicle is empty. There's nobody lining up. And then there's other ones where there is a queue and the new people come up and they don't go to the empty cubicle. They line up where other people are because they must know something that I don't, right? We're herd animals. We don't want to stand out from the pack. We want to go with everyone else. So with social proof, the most common thing that I hope everybody is already onto is reviews and testimonials, right? Yeah. Those are the opinions of other people who have dealt with you and were happy, right? So that is social proof. And if you've worked out that you lose a lot of business if you don't share testimonials and reviews, then, well, applaud to you, good for you. But please realize that reviews and testimonials is only one little aspect of social proof. There is so much to it that you're probably not using, and that make sure you lose out on things. So with reviews, let's just stay on that for a little bit. If we look at the rule, right, we follow the actions of others, especially when they're numerous and when they're similar to us. So let me give your audience this one. Let's say you're doing a pitch to someone. Let's keep it it doesn't need to be sales. You could be pitching an idea, a concept, a project. And your audience is, let's say, a mature older gentleman. Right now, you turn up and you've got your sales pitch ready. And in your sales pitch, you're sharing a number of testimonials from clients. And they're the 5 testimonials that you really like, right? Things that you've collected over time. And, that was really nice. And you put those 5 into your presentation. And so the 5 testimonials are one from a young girl who's like 20 years old, has used your services and was happy. And there's this sort of, 25, 30-year-old guy, and then there's this young couple in their 35s, and then there's this mature woman, and then there is this mature couple that have a business together and you work with them, and there's this mature gentleman that also left you a testimonial. And so you've come up with these, or you're sharing these testimonials, and that's good. That's social proof, right? It's the actions of others. But if you were a detective of persuasion, you would know who you're going to be meeting with. And you would know that that is, let's say, a mature gentleman in this case. If you were a detective, you would go through the testimonials that you have, because you probably have many, and now you look for 5 testimonials of other mature gentlemen that used your services and were happy. And you present those. That amplifies, you can feel it, right?
Right.
As in, now I'm looking at 5 people who are all older gentlemen like me. Ideally, they're in the same line of business as I'm in, and they used your services and were happy. They're more like me, and therefore the social proof is significantly more powerful. I just did an episode, or released that on my podcast, about social proof, and I won't spoil it now, but I talk about, because with social proof, it's a lot about what we say, but it's not all about what we say. It's also about images. What do we show people? And so I share an example of a shopping center where they wanted to get more lunches enjoyed before 12, because after 12 was getting really busy. And so they made these posters that were hung up throughout the shopping center. Enjoy an earlier lunch was the text, but they had an image on there. And with that image, it produced a 25% increase in the amount of people that enjoyed lunch before 12 o'clock. Using a different image and using one of the amplifiers of social proof. With a different image, 75% more people enjoyed lunch before 12 o'clock. That's a 200% better result that would have been lost out on if they hadn't tested this based on the science, right? All right, social proof. How are we doing for time?
We're good. Keep going, because people want this information.
Sure? All right, you can always cut in half. All right. So social proof. There's a lot. Oh, there's so much to social proof. Let me share one more extra thing on social proof.
Sure.
And it also has to do with reviews and testimonials. And that is to do with our review scores, right? How many stars do our clients give us for the job that we've done? And so, of course, we want people to be absolutely delighted with the service or the product that we've rendered them. And so we absolutely want them to leave a 5-star review, right? But then when people are shopping for us and looking for us, when they're on websites or maybe, map websites, it might show what our average score is in terms of all those testimonials you got. What's the average score? Now, my question, of course, we're not going to get an answer back, but I would ask your audience, what would you like your average score to ideally be? And if you're thinking 5, you're wrong. Because what we want is something that's persuasive, that motivates people to want to deal with you.
Right.
And an average score of 5 lacks credibility.
Yep.
The subconscious go, no one is that good. You deleted all the bad ones. You got lots of your friends to leave good reviews. Nobody is that good, right? 4.9, same problem. 4.8 still lacks credibility. The ideal range for an average review score is 4.2 to 4.7. It has credibility, and it is high enough for people to want to work with you. If it's less than 4.2, it has credibility, but now it tends to be getting too little for people to want to work with you. So next time you get a 2 or a 3-star review, which, come on, that happens, right? We can't be perfect all the time. Don't break out in tears, right? If your average score goes towards 4.7, you're heading towards the sweet spot, right? It's actually more persuasive. And so there's lots of assumptions that we make that we'll say that, or we communicate this because that must no, right? And websites is another great example, right? Web designers are great at making pretty websites, but pretty is not persuasive. I mean, ugly doesn't help either, right? We go, can't be too professional if your website looks like that, right? But pretty is not persuasive. There's a whole deeper science to how to get people to behave the way you want, to get them to do things you want them to do in an online environment. All right, let's move on. Principle of authority, my favorite one. By the time this airs, that'll also be available on my podcast. Principle of authority works because we follow the advice of others who have genuinely more knowledge and wisdom on a particular topic. And that makes sense because we can't know everything. And so when there's someone there who knows more about it than we do, then, well, it makes sense to follow their advice, right? But here's the problem. You, everybody listening to this, you are an authority in your field of expertise as well. But when you meet with someone face to face, you have lost the opportunity to communicate the reasons why they should listen to you. You cannot turn up to a meeting and go, "Hi, my name's Patrick. Let me tell you the 34 reasons why you should listen to me." Because the subconscious is going to go, "You're full of yourself." Right?
Uh-huh.
And you lose authority and you lose liking. Right? It's lose, lose. You can't do that. And so we must arrange for our credentials to be raised to the surface before we meet with someone face to face. And so there's ways to do that. Authority is also about believability. Just because you say something doesn't mean that everybody reading it or listening to it will go, "Oh, yeah." No, your audience might go, "Yeah, maybe," right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's ways that you can be more credible. And let me give you one little nugget. I mean, I hope your audience realizes that depending on who these nuggets are given to, and of course,
Right.
with the Cialdini Institute, right, we work with larger companies as well. One single idea like these can be worth millions in the right hands, right?
Yeah.
Let me give you another one. It has to do with numbers. I love this one. When we communicate, when I just joined BNI, there was a lady in my chapter, and she stood up and she said something along the lines that we're in consultation services for businesses about cultures and team management and so on. And she said something along the lines of, "Last month we worked with a company and we managed to save them $300,000. Wow, right? It's a lot of money. But now notice how you feel, or how you would have felt if she had instead said, "Last month we worked with a company and we managed to save them $287,542.12. Your believability goes up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 300,000, you go, interesting, maybe, right? But when I go that specific, it feels like I took it straight of an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Right? It has more believability. I become more credible. So what do we all do in business? We round off, right? We worked with 1,200 people last year. We saved that company $45,000, right? All nicely rounded figures because we think it sounds nicer, and we're actually damaging our own credibility. So stop rounding off. Use exact numbers.
I love that.
Make sense?
Yes. No, it totally does. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I've had
All right.
I've had the same thought myself in other times when I see a number and I'm like, "Oh, that's a very specific number. I wonder where it came from." Whereas if it's, a rounded number, you're like, "Oh, they're just putting some stuff together," that kind of stuff. Anyway, continue on.
So if you've got a website and you got those sorts of things on it, put an alarm on your computer or get one of your staff members to go back and update it every single week. If you have another 2 customers, change it. You know how that would make someone feel when they revisit your website a couple of weeks later and go, "That was 1,018 when I last looked. Now it's 1,025, right?"
Yeah.
As in, and of course, we want to use this genuinely and ethically, right?
Yes.
We don't want to lie or cheat or deceive because we get found out. And research shows that use this ethically, it produces short-term and long-term success. Where if you use this unethically, it might produce short-term wins, but long-term disaster. And now with social media, the consequences of getting found out for trying to deceive people can destroy a personal and company brand in a day, right? We're talking credibility craters. So you don't need to cheat when the science is so powerful that you can win with it if you just educated yourself on it.
Right.
All right. Where were we? Authority. 2 more to go. Nearly there. It's like a marathon. All right. Consistency. So people feel a pressure from within to stay consistent to past actions and statements that they've made in the past. So what we need to do is we need to create the opportunity for people to share with us what is important to them. And I think a lot of your listeners are already doing that when you're, consultative, talking with people. Okay, tell me what's important to you. What do you value? Right. And so when then an hour later or 2 weeks later, you come with your proposal and it aligns with exactly what they said was important to them, I would say that this is highly ethical, right? But also it ties people into that decision. It is harder to say no when what I've come up with for you is exactly what you said was important.
Mhm.
So if we fail to ask those qualifying questions at the beginning, then we're losing the opportunity to motivate people into action with that. I can give you an awesome example. Let me not spill all the beans. In episode 8 of my podcast, I interviewed Dr. Chris Phelps, who's the CEO of the Cialdini Institute, and he runs also dental clinics. And he had a questionnaire, an intake form that we typically fill out when we're with medical practitioners, but you can use it in a lot more industries than you think.
Yeah.
And on that question, instead of just asking, what's your history, what's your last dentist, have you got private health insurance, all those sorts of questions, they asked a question about the person's value. And again, you have to go listen to the episode, but by asking this single question, case acceptance, which is what dentists call it when the client goes, yes, we will do what you're suggesting, right? Which was what we would all like to hear. Case acceptance went up by 35.5% across their clinics with a single question, right? So episode 8. So consistency, we want to stay true. A good example of this, which you've probably done on a mate, if you want to go mountain biking on the weekend or something, you go to your mates and you go, hey, do you consider yourself an adventurous type? And the funny thing is, most people think that they're adventurous and most people think that they're creative. And so they'll go, yeah, I'm adventurous. You go, oh, awesome. I'm going mountain bike riding on Sunday. You want to come? Right? It's now you've put your foot in it a little bit, like, oh, I just told you I'm adventurous. And so now it's harder to say no, right? You can feel that.
Yeah.
All right. Last one, scarcity. So we value things more that are less available, right? And what shall I give you here? All right. I'll give you something exceedingly powerful. I'm sharing a lot. Why am I sharing so much with you? It's because we're both BNI members and we have unity between us, right? We like each other more. We're more supportive.
Exactly.
All right. So when we talk to people about the benefits that they are able to experience from using our product or service, most people are in a terrible habit of talking about what people will gain from using that product or service, right? Let's pick a car, right? If you buy this car, you'll get there faster, you'll save fuel, it's good for the environment, and you'll experience much more luxury, right? Those are all rational, logical reasons, right? Yeah. System 2, so that doesn't per se help us so much, but it is referred to in what I stand to gain if I get this car, where I can communicate the exact same 4 features in terms of what I would lose if I didn't get the car, right? It'll take longer to get there. It'll cost you more fuel. You'll have a bigger negative impact on the environment, and you won't be as comfortable during your travels, right? You can feel it, right? And I can even give you a case study with that. There was a company, they were doing home assessments to figure out the insulation values of homes in terms of how poorly were they insulated. And they then had the opportunity to insulate their house fully. Probably not everybody's favorite job, right? And so at the end of the assessment, some people were instructed with a gain instruction, right? If you insulate your house fully, you'll be able to save $1 a day, right? Let's say it's $1 a day. The other half of the people were instructed that, a loss instruction, if you fail to insulate your house fully, you will lose $1 a day. 150% more people insulated their house fully under the loss instruction instead of the gain. We are easily twice more motivated to respond to a potential loss than a possible gain, which makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. If I have a certain amount of resources, if I gain more, well, that's nice. But if I lose resources, that could be detrimental, right? So we
Yeah.
pay more attention to what we stand to lose. So that's 7 principles.
Yeah. And to speak to that last one, places where I've seen that used is online retailers. You're looking at a particular product or a piece of clothing or something. Right now you and I are recording this right around Christmas time. So I've just been Christmas shopping online and I'm looking at something and it goes, there's only 3 left. And I'm like,
Yep,
I believe it. It's almost Christmas. Get it in my cart. Buy now. you know,
exactly.
it's
It is probably the most abused principle as
yes,
well, right? You've been on
agreed.
websites where, the sale's ending in 2 hours and 16 minutes and they're low on stock. And then you forget about the tab. You come back 3 weeks later. I've got like 100 tabs open at any one time.
Uh-huh.
You come back to the tab. Oh, wow, it's still 2 hours and 6 minutes left and they're still low on stock, right?
Yeah.
Credibility crater. But provided we use this ethically, and there's some websites that you do this very, very well, right? When you can see the
Right.
number disappear, and if you once didn't act on it, and then you couldn't get that room anymore, right? As in a hotel room, let's say,
Yeah.
right? Then hang on, these figures are real. When this number hits 0, I can't get that anymore. And so,
Yeah.
bookings.com, they didn't have all those features to begin with. When that was turned on, within half an hour, the spike of purchases, they thought something had gone wrong and were on the phone to IT, because people instantly react to this information. System 1 information.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I really hope at this point that the Badass Crew has already favorited this episode wherever they're listening to come back and review it again and again, because I'm sure there are pieces that you guys have missed. But to speak to this, so if they've gotten value from this, what's the next step that they can do to learn more from about influence and persuasion with you, Patrick?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for asking. So it's great to learn from what we've shared here today. And I've shared little nuggets of gold, but information is not really power. Application skill is power. And I would argue that you need confidence to go along with it.
Mhm.
So I've got some tools that I can give you access to, but it's sort of in that knowledge sort of zone. It's not in application building zone. So you can head to my website, which is easy to remember, ethicalpersuasion.com.au, because I'm in Australia. And there's a little free button in the corner. You can get access to a downloadable ebook.
Yep.
No email required, right? Just right click and download. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a gift. There's also a 7-day email challenge. For that, we do, of course, need your email address. I've got my podcast, Ethical Persuasion Unlocked. And when we're recording this, I've been going for about 2.5 months now. The beginning of it is mostly me sharing how this theory works, right? So there's episodes on a single principle, and I go a lot deeper. So seriously, start with episode 1 and 2 and work your way forward from there. Lots to learn, but again, it's knowledge. You'll benefit from it. You'll make some money out of it. You'll lose less, but you're not building the application skills. Of course, I am available professionally. So of course, I'm a keynote speaker. So larger organizations, a keynote is often a great way to start to see the team members actually leaning into this, because there's a lot of training out there that, especially a lot of things that are a bit manipulative. And then people don't want to use it. They push back, and it goes against, let's say, the scorecard of their own company. If we hear this more and more, right? When employees feel that their values don't align with the company, they move on. You could be losing the best people you've got because you're trying to push something on them that doesn't resonate with them. Where we don't have to lie or cheat. And there's science to back this up, that this is exceedingly powerful. So people like using it. The keynote is great. I do workshops with groups. I also do workshops online. We can go through a half-day program. And then the best, if you'll take my word for it, the fastest way to learn this, Dr. Cialdini created a flagship course, which is the Cialdini Certified Practitioner course. And that's an online program, which can be done on its own. But, we all know if it's online only, we often don't finish. So he actually designed it to be combined with us certified trainers. And so we do, let's say, an hour of homework and then an hour group session where we work on an influence challenge that you face yourself. And so every week you get new information and we work on the practical application. And so you come up and you generate ideas also with the people there. And then not only do you walk away with a strategy plan that I've actually checked that you can immediately implement, but you'll actually have the application skills and the confidence that you're using it right. And so that's the fastest way of learning that.
I think those are all wonderful things, especially because we do have a number of people who are at a variety of levels within their direct sales and network marketing business. So leaders, if you guys heard him say he does trainings, he can come in and teach your team how to do this. You may want to reach out to him. But at bare minimum, we're going to have the link to your website, ethicalpersuasion.com.au, in the show notes. So, of course, those of you who are very familiar with how to get there, you know what to do. But if this is your first time ever listening to the show, what I want you to do is click on today's episode on your phone, assuming you're not driving, and scroll under Patrick's picture. And there you will see all of Patrick's information, some show notes about our conversation today, as well as the link where you can go get access to his ebook. No email required. It is truly a gift. So thank you, right, Patrick, for being here. This has been so helpful. I mean, I've had my own aha moments. I have felt some of the audience have their aha moments energetically. That is so freaking cool. And there's a really good chance this is going to get broken into 2 episodes because both of them are so powerful. And so I want people to be able to go listen to the decision-making part and the 7 principles. So we'll see, but it depends on how my team ends up working on it. But Patrick, this has been so insightful. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'm sure if the situation were reversed, you'd do the same for me.
Oh, absolutely. And if you ever want me to come talk about what I do on your show, let's have that conversation if I can help you with content for yours. So, of course, also, Badass Crew, if you're looking for another great podcast to listen to, Ethical Persuasion Unlocked, available on YouTube and all of the big podcast platforms out there as well. And I'm sure probably also listed on his website. So you can get access there as well. So Badass Crew, thank you for being here. And you know how this goes. Stay tuned because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.